Hello and welcome everybody to yet another The Bridge Live. Today is, of course, a very special day, the 19th of January 2025, the first ever KHO World Cup that was held in the national capital of New Delhi. And both the Indian men's and women's teams have gone on and taken the title. I have with me today Vithi Jot, like usual, as well as Abhijit Nair. Welcome, guys.
Hi, Shine. Hi.
How's the Josh? How's the Josh, guys?
Hi.
So,
It was
so
a good win for both
yeah.
teams. So yeah.
Yeah, so just to set the context for the live session right away, the Indian women's team won the title earlier in the day. The match ended at around 7:30 ish, a couple of hours back, and they defeated Nepal by 78 points to 40 points in the final. And just a little while back, 10-15 minutes back, the Indian men's team reciprocated with a similar result. They also beat the team from Nepal by 54 points to 36, and like I said, both the men's and the women's teams have taken the first ever, the inaugural Kho Kho World Cup. I just wanted to jump straight into the significance of this competition, right? Because we've been hearing about a big competition, of a global competition for Kho Kho for some time now. We've had Ultimate Kho Kho, we've had domestic leagues and stuff like that. But even for us who know the game, it wasn't, we weren't really aware of how big Coco is outside of India, right? So when you see the scale of this first ever World Cup that has been organized, we had 20 men's teams, we had 19 women's teams, we had teams from Brazil, Peru, Korea, Britain. We in fact we spoke to the coaches from Brazil and Peru a couple of days back. You can check that video out on our socials. It is up now. What was your overall reaction like to to the tournament as an entirety? Abhijit, I'll let you go first.
Yeah, I mean, there were I think around 23 countries which played the World Cup. So I mean, and it's just the first edition. So to pull it off, or to to bring in 23 countries for the first time itself, it's quite a big deal. And I think the international federation and the Coco Federation of India, I think they did a commendable job. And yeah, the quality of competition, I mean, you can question the quality of competition. Apart from, say, India and Nepal, they were not really, the other teams were not, say, up to the mark. But it will happen in due course of time, I believe. Abhi ke liye, it was a good start. It was something which a lot of Coco enthusiasts or Coco players felt was needed. So I think the sport has gotten a good boost, a good push, which was needed. Let's see how it pans out in the future.
Yeah, absolutely. Viti, you have been traveling for the last week. You have been traveling for our Hockey India League coverage, of course. And you can do, you all who are live right now can go ahead and watch all of our recent videos on the Hockey India League across our socials. Viti has been at the heart of all of that. I don't think you've been able to catch a lot of Coco, or did you make time to watch a few matches, Viti?
But I did get the chance to watch a few matches, largely because, uh, as we also noticed on our platform, that the audience has been on the good end of receiving the Coco news and content around it. So it was sort of obvious for me to get into the game, largely because just to understand what the hype is all about, and it was very obvious when you see the game. Um, and you mentioned that we have had a word with a couple of coaches, all right. And I think the very essence of Coco is that um, everyone just made it work. It was not just the host country, not just the system, not just the Indian players again. It was everyone, because when we were talking to one of Peru coaches, I suppose, and so the coach said that everyone just came together and they all are different players from different sports. And then they watched the game and decided to just give it a try and eventually made the World Cup happen. Because we have been constantly mentioning about the countries uh, which are present in the globe and have been oblivious, or we have been oblivious to their very existence. And as Vijit also mentioned, like it is just a start, and I just want to point out the significance of the limelight that the sport has received. Considering this is the first time something like this has happened in India, and I think it's a very, very uh, bright start for Kho, and I'm really excited how the future would look like because in the post match interview, Priyanka, the captain of Indian women's Kho team, she said mentioned actually that they're very excited that the next big target would be Asian Games and um, Olympics 2036 Olympics because India is looking to bid for that particular edition and they are very hopeful because the way the way Kho Kho World Cup has received a response in the capital and across India. Um, despite not having a very big PR, I mentioned that, all right? And despite that, it has received very good response. And if India goes ahead and bid successfully for the 2036 Olympics, I see Coco getting into the edition. India probably,
Yeah,
you never know, getting the medal.
yeah. It's so interesting that you brought that up because I was coming to that eventually. That I think the federation has mentioned categorically that we will be targeting getting Coco into the Olympics by 2032 itself. So, if indeed, like you said, if India manages to bag the hosting rights for 2036, chances are high that Coco will be mainstay there. And the federation has also mentioned that not just the Olympics, we are also targeting the 2030 Asian Games. So yeah, I mean, a new sport, a traditional sport, something that we all have played at least once. I mean, I don't think I know anybody who has never played Kho. I mean, be it north, south, east, west. I'm from Kolkata. Vithi is from Indore. Abhijit is from Ahmedabad. I'm sure we all have played Kho at least once in our lifetime, more than once. So I remember in our PT, of course, PT period, mein, we used to play Kho every day, and that used to be so much fun. And just to see a tournament like a World Cup arranged for a sport like Kho, which the commentators especially have been mentioning the fastest sport on planet Earth, which I think there is some truth to it, because how rapid these players are. If you don't watch them live, you can't really make out because some of the dives that they make, it's incredible. It's like peak Jaunty Rhodes diving at a cover point and taking a catch, maybe even more than that. And yeah, so another important point that Viti mentioned there is that the fact that these countries which have taken an interest in Kho, how quickly they have developed a strong team. Especially for yesterday, we saw India play against South Africa in the semifinals. I have been watching a few of the men's matches. I haven't been able to catch a lot of the women's matches because of the time. But yesterday I was watching the semi-final, and the Wazir from the South African side, I forget his name, but he was rapid. He was absolutely rapid, and their strategy throughout the game was very good. They almost caught India off guard, and it would have been an upset of sorts if they would have managed to get the better of India in the semi-finals, right? So there are promising signs that there are countries which have taken up the sport very strongly, and they are becoming good at it with every passing day. So I just wanted to take this narrative now. The reaction from the sports fans, which he again mentioned it, that we coming into the tournament, we didn't have that much expectation from an audience point of view, right? Because I mean, there was a little bit of PR, Salman Khan and Tiger Shroff brand ambassadors, funny looking mascot doing funny stuff. All of that has happened. But even then, we were not convinced that this would catch the fancy of the larger masses. But right from the first match that happened, the India Nepal, the close encounter that kicked off the tournament, we saw huge outbursts of celebration of the sport in our comment section, especially. So, what has your reaction been to the audience reaction, Abhijit?
To be very honest, I was quite surprised that Coco was picking up this much, at least in the online space, right? And I think a lot of it has to do with the fact with how well it was marketed. सलमान खान आ रहा है, सचिन तेंदुलकर आ रहा है, ये लोग आके वीडियो डाल रहे खो खो देखो. Of course, it is going to have some impact, but other than that, it is also a very Indianized sport, right? तुमने ही बोला कि स्कूल में खेलते थे, बहुत ही कम लोग होंगे जिन्होंने कभी स्कूल में खो-खो खेला नहीं होगा। तो आई थिंक दैट्स वन ऑफ द बिगेस्ट रीज़न्स व्हाई इट पिक्ड अप एंड खो-खो ट्रेडिशनली रूरल एरियाज़ में इट इज़ वेरी मच प्रेवेलेंट एंड आई थिंक काफ़ी ऑडियंस वहाँ से भी आया स्पोर्ट के लिए, जो देखना चाहते थे, जो चाहते थे कि इस बड़े स्केल पे खो-खो का कोई इवेंट हो। इवन अल्टीमेट खो-खो के जो 2 सीज़न्स हुए अभी तक, उसमें भी देयर वाज़ ऑनलाइन प्रेज़ेंस फैन्स का काफ़ी ज़्यादा था। तो उस हिसाब से व्हेन व्हेन आई लुक एट इट, या इट्स अ ग्रेजुअल बिल्ड अप, तो सरप्राइजिंग बट नॉट कंप्लीटली सरप्राइजिंग इज़ हाउ आई वुड पुट इट।
Yeah, we just had a comment from Shashank who says, "I feel South Africa completely caught India off guard. If India would have played the same way against Nepal like they played against South Africa, they would have definitely lost." Yeah, I think there is some truth to it because the Indian defenders, especially, they were kind of being a little condescending towards the South African attackers during the second turn yesterday. I thought because which is a big part of the sport. Of course, I'm not saying that they shouldn't do that. Poking fun and mocking the opposition is a big part of the sport, just to get them to put that extra bit of effort and exhaust them, so to speak. So that happened a lot yesterday, but South Africa didn't give up. To their credit, they seemed like a proper team, and they and South Africa and Nepal are probably the two finds of the tournament because both the women's and men's teams of these two countries, they've given a great account of themselves. We have a lot of people watching live. Please chip in with your comments. We'll take them up, as many of them as we can, as we have this discussion on the Coco World Cup. Diving into the next topic, so a few names that we have pulled out from the Indian. Of course, these are going to be household names very soon. We all hope that. But right now, I noticed this particular guy called Mehul and Ramji Kashyap. These two defenders caught my eye. Apart from the captain Pratik Vaikar, of course, who also has been tremendous. And in the women's teams, Priyanka Ingle, also the captain, again a fantastic all rounder, especially while defending, she's incredibly good, as well as Chaitra. So the art of not getting of avoiding the touch. I mean, Mehul in the final a little while back, he survived the touch for, I think, if I'm not wrong, 2 minutes and 44 seconds. It was just 16 seconds away from getting that bonus point through a dream run. And he was completely exhausted by the end of it. His tongue was out. He was like, नहीं हो पाया end में. Last के 16 सेकंड नहीं खींच पाया वो basically. So it's so fun to see a sport which we have enjoyed so much, and these guys are really good. It's not like the Indian team average जीत गई है. These guys are actually good. These guys have been playing Kho since they were in class 8 or 10. I read up on a few of them, and they have won national championships. They've been part of championship winning teams in the domestic circuit. They represented their organizations where they work and stuff like that. So these are top notch players, and the quality, especially from the Indian team, has been top notch. If I may say so, the women's team a little bit more than the men's team because the women's team won all their matches pretty convincingly. It was a few close matches for the men's team. So, what was your takeaway from the overall India POV, the Indian performance overall in the World Cup, Preeti?
Yeah, I'll go first. Yeah, so you mentioned about like overall dominance of India, right? तो उसमें एक चीज मुझे याद आई थी क्योंकि हम लोग बात कर रहे थे कि हम स्कूल में खेलते हैं, राइट? तो you also mentioned about Mehul running for 2 minutes and some 44 seconds. And just imagine running for 2 minutes continuously. और उसमें भी आपको मतलब आपको पीछे देख बिना मतलब आपको बस भागना है, ठीक है? आप 2 मिनट उस स्पीड पे भागो और तो अगेन ये सब दिखाता है कि हमारे यहाँ खो खो का क्वालिटी कितना टॉप नॉच है। और ये वही लोग हैं जो लोग बिकॉज इससे मुझे प्रियंका की स्टोरी याद आती है यहाँ पे कि वो खो खो इसीलिए बिकॉज दैट वाज द ओनली स्पोर्ट पेरेंट्स कुड सपोर्ट एंड अफोर्ड, ठीक है? हम कहते हैं कि बहुत सारे हैं कि वॉलीबॉल खेलते हैं क्योंकि हमारे पास और कोई मतलब वी कांट अफोर्ड अदर स्पोर्ट्स एंड ऑल ऑफ दैट, बट आज खो खो देख के ना ऐसा लगता है कि ये सबसे करीब है माटी के। लाइक दिस इज एक्चुअली द मोर कोर मोस्ट कोर स्पोर्ट इंडिया कुड प्ले। और ये वही लोग अगेन एज आई मेंशन कि बहुत कम सपोर्ट, बहुत कम सब्सटेंस से आते हैं, लेकिन वही बहुत सारे नेशनल चैंपियनशिप जीते हैं, इंटरनेशनली रिप्रेजेंट किया है इंडिया को, और वो क्वालिटी दिखाते हैं वहाँ पे। और जैसे शशांक ने भी मेंशन किया था कि कैसा इंडिया ने खेला और कैसा इंडिया ने आज खेला, तो आप इससे ये भी समझ में आता है कि इट्स मोर देन जस्ट फिजिकल एबिलिटीज, बिकॉज अभी हम लोग सिर्फ समझ रहे हैं ना स्पोर्ट को, अचानक से आ गया बस ये, ठीक है, मतलब अगेन हम थे वहां पे, वी न्यू कि वर्ल्ड कप हो रहा है, हमें पता, हमने सबने खेला है वो गेम, और अगेन हम लोगों ने बिल्कुल पैर गल जाए इतना खेला है वो स्पोर्ट, लेकिन इतना बढ़िया रिस्पॉन्स जो आया है, और इतना बढ़िया, और इसका ये रिस्पॉन्स इसलिए आया है क्योंकि हमने बहुत बढ़िया खेल दिखाया है। ऐसा नहीं था कि बस चल रहा है, ठीक है, हमने बहुत 2 मिनट 2 मिनट्स 44 सेकेंड्स ना भागना, एक मैं चेक कर रही थी तो उसमें लाइक 2 मिनट्स तो इट्स अ नॉर्मल नंबर, लाइक यू जस्ट हैव टू रन 2 मिनट्स, आप खेलना भागना पड़ेगा, तो क्वालिटी टू वाज टॉप नॉच थी, और यही रीजन था कि इंडिया की दोनों टीमें फाइनल ना ही सिर्फ पहुंची बल्कि मेडल निकाले हैं, गोल्ड मेडल निकाले हैं, क्राउन निकाला है, इतनी सुंदर ट्रॉफीज। I'm absolutely huge fan of the trophies, वो दोनों कलर्स ब्लू और ग्रीन जो कलर्स हैं उसके, ह्यूज फैन, तो आई थिंक वो बहुत अच्छा काम किया है यहाँ पे व्यवस्था ने, और आई रियली होप क्वालिटी आगे भी देखने के लिए मिले, बाकी देशों में भी, थोड़ा साउथ एशिया के बाहर जाए, क्योंकि इंडिया नेपाल के अलावा भी हम बहुत सारे देश हैं जो अच्छा खेल के दिखाए हैं, प्रॉब्लली आगे ब्राइट होगा और अच्छी क्वालिटी हम दिखा पाएंगे इंटरनेशनल स्टेज पे।
एग्जैक्टली, एंड दैट इज द थिंग राइट, कि जहाँ जहाँ भी इंडियंस होंगे पूरे दुनिया में, एंड इफ देर पार्ट ऑफ द खो खो टीम ऑफ दैट पर्टिकुलर कंट्री, लाइक वी सॉ केनिया की टीम में दो ऐसे इंडियन ओरिजिन के प्लेयर्स थे who I think they were brought up in India, then they migrated to another country, which in this case was Kenya. एंड जहाँ जहाँ भी इंडियन डायस्पोरा का प्रेजेंस है, स्ट्रॉन्ग प्रेजेंस है, वहाँ से खो खो टीम्स निकल के आना इज नॉट गोइंग टू बी अ ह्यूज सरप्राइज गोइंग फॉरवर्ड, राइट? बिकॉज अभी हमने देखा है कि इट्स नॉट जस्ट द इंडियन टीम, साउथ अफ्रीका, नेपाल, we've had a couple of other teams who have given great account of themselves. I mentioned Kenya, then there's Iran, there's Sri Lanka, all of these teams, Bangladesh, all of these teams have picked up the sport. And even Malaysia, a country like Malaysia, which has a lot of Indians living there, it's just about किसी एक का कल्चर से वाकिफ होने के बाद वो और भी निखर के आता है ना उस पर्टिकुलर रीजन में, which has happened with so many sports in the world, and we all hope that the same thing happens with Kho Kho also. uh, uh, the new rules which I wanted to talk about a little bit, we did a detailed video on the all of the new rules that were governing this inaugural Kho Kho World Cup, and the most interesting part of it was, I for me it was the wazir, because normal Kho Kho mein there isn't one guy who can go dono direction mein, but in this case, in this particular Kho Kho World Cup, we have this one. It's like volleyball में जैसा होता है ना, there's one guy who's wearing a different jersey just to make him stand out from the others, and this guy has some special powers all of a sudden. And जब मैंने पहला मैच देखा था, I didn't know about this new rule, so I kept wondering कि ये दोनों तरफ कैसे भाग रहा है, and then I figured out after the first couple of minutes कि अच्छा, this must be a new rule. Then I went and read up on it, and I understood कि this was a new rule that had been introduced. So all of these new rules, the Wazir, the Dream Run, following on is a feature in Kho Kho which a lot of people might not know. Uh, how did you see these changes? Did they make the sport more interesting for you to watch on television or OTT, Abhijit?
Yeah, definitely. But I won't call it a new rule as such because they introduced these rules when they started with Ultimate Kho, right? So the plan was, I think, very simple. They wanted to modernize the sport. जैसे पीकेएल ने कबड्डी के साथ किया, ब्रिंगिंग इन सुपर रेट, सुपर टैकल्स, ये सब खो खो में भी इनका आइडिया यही था. So they brought in the concept of dream runs. They brought in Wazir, or uh, it now is also a 7-man sport and a 7-minute turn वाला sport, right? पहले 9 होते थे. ट्रेडिशनली एक टीम में 9 अटैकर्स बैठते थे, एंड ईच टर्न यूज्ड टू गो ऑन फॉर 9 minutes एज वेल. तो ये उन्होंने किया ही इसीलिए कि बिकॉज दे वांटेड टू कि गेम थोड़ा फास्ट पेस पे चले. the faster the game, the easier to attract new audiences, younger audiences. We have seen cricket do it. ठीक है, same ही concept है. So they kind of got the idea and then they kind of translated it into खो खो. अभी तक तो काफी अच्छा काम कर रहा है. It has also seen a good response. हम बार बार बात कर रहे हैं कि काफी ऐसे कंट्रीज खेले वर्ल्ड कप जो which we did not expect them to, and most of those countries had their native players, and it was not just Indian origin players. We also spoke about this a lot during our previous Kho live, right? So I think ये rules का change करना, ये नए aspects लाना, it has just made the sport थोड़ा more interesting and more watchable for spectators, and I think थोड़ा अर्बन ऑडियंस भी अट्रैक्ट करने की कोशिश कर रहे हैं, बिकॉज प्रिडोमिनेंटली जैसे मैं पहले भी बोला, इट्स प्रिडोमिनेंटली रूरल स्पोर्ट अभी तक. सो ओवरऑल आई थिंक a very good concept it was, and which they introduced via the ultimate Kho league, and it's good to see that it has picked up and that they
So
did not stick to the traditional rules and regulations for the World Cup.
yeah, so you're expecting cheerleaders in Coco also soon in the World Cup as well.
It might
Who
happen,
knows?
who knows.
Who knows? Yeah. But yeah, I taking up from what Vithi was saying just a little while back. These players, they are genuinely good and they've performed consistently well across the entire World Cup, and both the teams were unbeaten, of course. So abhi responsibility hamari hai as people in the media to make these people known, right? And we can promise to do our bit, but the audience has to also chip in and do their bit. And by that I mean कि इसके आगे when there are domestic खो खो competitions, इसके बाद जब ultimate खो खो का next season होगा, there has to be a rise in viewership, there has to be a rise in general interest on it, right? That is how you sustain a new sport. I'm calling it a new sport because it's globally it is a new sport, but of course we all know it has existed for centuries now. But yeah, so how do you see the future of the near term future of Kho, seeing as to the fact that this World Cup has garnered so much attention? You think?
Um, yeah, so I think the future is bright again, as we were talking about it, right? और मुझे बस यही लगता है कि जैसे अभिजीत ने भी मेंशन किया था कि दे जस्ट टैप्ड ऑन द राइट थिंग, कि दे डिडंट वेट फॉर द ट्रेडिशनल रूल्स एंड ऑल ऑफ दैट. दे जस्ट गॉट टू द पॉइंट. उनको पता था कि फास्ट पेसनेस चलेगा, व्हिच अदर स्पोर्ट्स हैव ऑलरेडी ट्राइड. वो आरएनडी मेथड जो होता है, एंड आई थिंक कोको ने उधर बिल्कुल टैप ऑन किया है. Just get on with the new rules. Again, not the new rules, but उसको कितना हम fast pace बना सकते हैं, considering it was the first of something that India was hosting. तो बस आई थिंक वही है, कंसिस्टेंसी हमें मेंटेन करके रखनी है, बिकॉज आगे आगे आने 2-3 साल जो है इंडिया बड़े बड़े इवेंट्स के लिए बिड करेगा, और उसमें खो खो के आने के चांसेस बहुत ज्यादा है, कंसिडरिंग द रिस्पॉन्स वी हैव रिसीव्ड एट द खो खो वर्ल्ड कप.
Yes, बिल्कुल बिल्कुल. Also, Olympics and Asian Games की बात हो रही थी. We also have to ensure that जैसे हमारे यहाँ पे national games होता है. I don't quite know, is Coco part of the national games spectrum, Abhijit? Not yet, right?
No, it was in 2022. I think it was also there last year. This time around, which is going to happen in Uttarakhand, I'm not too sure. I haven't checked the roster. But था 22 में तो था जो which happened here in Gujarat.
Exactly. So we have to continue highlighting these kinds of sports in these competitions, right? Because national games is one other event in the Indian domestic sphere that gets a lot of attention. If you do well at the national games, you if not the layman, people who are into sports, who work in sports, who know about the Indian sports ecosystem, you will get in there. They will notice you. Is what I'm trying to say. So we have to make sure that these names that have come that have emerged from this World Cup, they don't just disappear after this, right? And that is a problem that historically India has faced in every other sport apart from cricket. Cricket को भी popular बनने के लिए एक World Cup लाना पड़ा था. सो दैट इज हाउ इट वर्क्स इन इंडिया. कुछ करने से पहले कुछ होता नहीं है अनफॉर्चुनेटली. तो वही तो all we can hope for at this point is that this particular World Cup victory can translate into something more substantial going forward. And of course अगर Olympic and Asian Games में inclusion हो गया उसके बाद तो it'll leapfrog into another stratosphere then is probably more realistic to say. एक बार वो हो गया तो वो हो सकता है. But just uh, on an ending note, I just wanted to ask you guys about uh, what you felt about the overall packaging of the league, the broadcast, the commentary, for example, how the crowd reacted to it, and the overall way that the tournament was organized. Because Coco World Cup again India में हुआ, जब बाजू में ही इन द सेम सिटी इनफैक्ट इंडिया ओपन भी चल रहा था. वी हैव many more events coming up over the next 18 to 24 months. Just from the perspective of India becoming a proper sporting nation, I personally feel that we have to organize and host a lot more events. And this, I feel, is probably a big step towards that. Even though Coco is not a huge sport, but hosting a tournament, a World Cup like tournament so smoothly, which it has been very smooth, is has to augur well for India's prospects of being confident to host big events, right? So, from keeping all of that in mind, what was your takeaway from this particular edition, Abhijit?
Mm, I think just the way they kind of went about marketing the event. Uh, that genuinely has to be my biggest takeaway because they just went all out. हमने पहले भी बात किया सलमान खान सचिन तेंदुलकर getting them to people of such big stature to come and put up a video on their social media handles saying ki support the sport. It's not easy, right? And to see that happen has been a big revelation. And the fact that the stadiums were never really empty, at least during the India matches.
Yeah,
Uh, I can't say about other matches because I haven't really gotten chance to watch. But India matches में crowd था, so people want to watch the sports. That's also there. So that those two would be my biggest takeaways from the event. And of course, I said it पहले भी थोड़ा competition level अच्छा और बेटर होता तो और मजा आता. But I think that will happen in due course of time. अभी के लिए it's a brilliant start.
absolutely. Viti, your final words?
Yeah, I agree with अभिजीत. पर एक बात है दिल्ली की, दिल्ली तो सब मतलब दिल्ली सब देखती है. मतलब if we want to go with that mark तो अच्छी बात है. Again, they went all out. आप सलमान खान को बुला रहे हो, आप टाइगर श्रॉफ को बुला रहे हो. I think OTT presence was amazing. उनको पता था कहाँ टैप ऑन करना है. मुझे बस लगा कि टीवी पे थोड़ा और कर सकते हैं
Actually, in
क्योंकि
fact, the English Premier League was going on, and the Kho ka slide was before that, which was a big surprise for me. That never happens. So yeah,
तो मैं उसी ऐड के मतलब इवन आई नोटिस समथिंग लाइक दैट. तो मेरा पॉइंट ये है कि थोड़ा और डिस्टर्बेंस आना चाहिए था उस ऐड को लेके. मतलब बस वो है, ऑब्वियसली इतना कर लिया पहले एडिशन में इटसेल्फ इज अ ह्यूज डील. और आई थिंक पिया उनका अगेन उनको पता था कहाँ टैप ऑन करना है. इट्स जस्ट दे पिक्ड अप द राइट थिंग्स फ्रॉम अदर लीग्स एंड अदर इवेंट्स. तो खो खो का अगेन बस कंपटीशन इज समथिंग दैट थोड़ा सा इट्स अब वो ऐसा है कि वो ऑर्गेनिकली होगा. यू कांट फोर्स जस्ट एनी कंट्री और प्लेयर टू प्ले. एंड आई थिंक इसके वर्ल्ड कप के कारण काफी आई मीन इंटरेस्टिंग होगा कि यहाँ जो आए हैं प्लेयर्स, नेटिव प्लेयर्स उनकी कंट्रीज के आए हैं, वो वापस लेके जाएंगे एक्सपीरियंस देन अंडरस्टैंड क्वालिटी बेटर एंड हाउ सिस्टम वर्क्स. तो यस डेफिनेटली बहुत स्कोप है यहाँ पे क्वालिटी इंप्रूव करने का. और आई रियली होप कि अगली बार इंडिया के साथ कोई नॉन एशियन कंट्री फाइनल में हो. ऑब्वियसली इंडिया हैज टू बी देयर, राइट, टू बी अ द वे. बट आई रियली होप कोई और नॉन एशियन कंट्री आए ताकि एक एविडेंस रहे कि यस इट्स ग्रोइंग
yes.
लाइक साउथ अफ्रीका.
Yeah, imagine a Canada versus India final all of a sudden. That will be incredible to see. Yeah, absolutely. Agree with both of your points there. And of course, so we have to we cannot compromise on the steady growth of the sport as a whole, and for that we need more competition, like Abhijit mentioned. More countries have to actively take an interest in it, like these countries have, Brazil, Peru, and the likes of those countries. And I just hope that their experience in New Delhi for the last fortnight or so will help them realize कि there is a market for the sport. Because India, if you take India's population into account, there is a market right there. कुछ भी कर लो, अगर 150 करोड़ लोग देख रहे हैं तो वो हिट है. So you don't even need to go outside of that. But of course, that is not the major aim. The major aim is to spread the sport everywhere in the world. But to start off, when you have a bank of 150 crore people who have almost all of them have played it at certain point, and it's such a hugely popular sport in tier 2, tier 3 cities, it's a no-brainer कि इस पे और काम होना चाहिए, and we have to promote the sport in a holistic manner so that it reaches more and more countries. So yeah, that is pretty much it from our end. Thank you everybody for joining in. I'll just take the last couple of comments before we drop off from the call. Shashank says highlight for me today was Chaitra having a dream run of 5 minutes and 24 seconds to win the World Cup. Did he have a 5 minute 24 second dream run?
Yes,
Oh, I
it was
didn't I didn't catch
brilliant.
that. Oh, ये तो बहुत अच्छा हुआ होगा.
This was the
फिर तो
women's
miss हो
team.
गया ये. Yeah, yeah. Chaitra is one of the main
Yeah.
defenders in the women's team. I didn't catch this. I'll have to go back and watch the highlight then. Thank you, Shashank, for this. I like the way the women's team coach was wearing armband of 175 record. Then today he was wearing the Olympics logo in it. 175 record? Which what record is this?
They scored 175 points in the
Oh,
first
okay.
match.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, they had four consecutive 100 plus scores, right? So yeah,
Yeah.
the first one was 175. I remember now. And he was wearing a Olympics logo in it. So yeah, that is the long term goal. Even the women's team coach knows that we have to get into the Olympics for a real big boost to this sport. So yeah, thank you so much everybody for joining in. It's a great day for Indian Kho Kho. Many congratulations to both the teams, and many congratulations to everybody who has been actively following the sport over the last fortnight and even before that. We just hope that this is just the starting point for a huge revolution in the sport, and we hope that it spreads to the farthest reaches of the planet. Having said that, thank you so much, Viti. Thank you so much, Abhijit. We've all had a tiring day covering all of these events. I'll let you get back to your work now. And yeah, for everybody who's watching, keep following our content across our socials. Keep following our content on our website, thebridge.in. And please continue to watch our coverage of the Hockey India League, which is nearing its closing stages now. And it's getting even more exciting with every passing day. Stay tuned for a lot more content from there and everywhere else from the world of Indian sports. Thank you so much for joining in. Thank you and good night.